Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres to keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Yaun on the line, and she is a real estate broker and owner over at Day Realty Group located in Texas, and she's also a founding member over at Forbes Magazine Real Estate Council. Angela, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So I'm excited to get more into what you're doing over at Day Realty Group and how you're helping your clients. But before we do that, let's get a little bit further into your background. So how did you get started in business and in your career?
You know, I am the daughter of two entrepreneurs, and so I think it's in my blood, my DNA. My dad was an inventor. My mother was a real estate broker as well later in life, but they, owned 4 different restaurants during my upbringing, and it was constantly, business venture and after business venture, and so I know nothing else except to work for myself, and so, I got into real estate when I was about 25 and became a broker at 28. So I was very, successful in the beginning because I just saw a vision of, what I wanted to do with my life, and that was just to do what my parents did and be on my own, be my own boss, create my own, hours and create my own life, and I did, and I haven't stopped. So.
That's awesome. I love your story because there's always, whenever I get someone on the show where I'm like, I just don't know anything else, it just makes so much sense. You're like, yeah, your parents, your grandparents, or somebody that
yes.
just, some people's brain, like you said, you're just born into it, and you don't know anything else. So that being said, there's you have certain advantages there because obviously you had the hindsight of watching your parents do it, and you're doing it yourself. There's people out there right now that are listening to this that maybe they're not quite as far along as you, and maybe they're just getting started with their first business or their first entrepreneurial venture. So having the benefit of hindsight and being in business many years on your own, what kind of advice would you give to those new entrepreneurs that are really just out there getting started?
Well, I mean, obviously you have to do the research, and, with us having the internet at our fingertips, you basically can give yourself a college education, even a PhD, just by researching the internet. I mean, back when I started, we didn't have anything like that, and so the technology we have today versus when I was getting started is so vast that anyone can pretty much get all the information they need. And so you really have to have that foundation and then get a mentor. So I had my parents as a mentor, and, looking back, I didn't understand how great of an advantage that is. But now that you have to have someone that's going to take you by the hand. And so that might mean that you go work for free for a little bit. I know I did in the beginning. I mean, most entrepreneurs are working for free, and that's okay. So you can understand and get your feet wet about the business. Go work for somebody else for a year and offer to do it for free just so you can learn and be a sponge. That's the number one thing
I love
do.
it. I love it. That's all great advice there. So, Angela, I want to switch it up a bit. Let's get into what you're doing over at Day Realty Group. So first, tell me a little bit more about the business, please.
Yes. So it is a real estate brokerage out of Texas. We primarily handle Dallas-Fort Worth, but we service the entire state. And it's your typical, residential, helping buyers, helping sellers. But we also are heavily into the commercial sector where we help businesses out there that are wanting to either lease property or sell property. I personally cater more oil and gas sector. So, that's a really big thing in Texas. And especially, it's probably the biggest production that we've ever had in probably history. So it's a really good time for real estate in that oil and gas sector. So the kinds of properties that we sell are niche properties that, like I said, cater to that sector. But we also, for the person out there that's not in oil and gas, maybe have in this market a problematic home that they're trying to sell, or they can't sell a home and they're trying to figure out how to. Well, we come in and we have different ways of making that happen, and that are non-traditional that a lot of realtors don't understand or they implement. And one of those tips is the seller financing. And seller financing is just a way to help those people that have got to move property and it's not moving. So we're just, I guess, out of the box brokerage, and we get very creative and do things that other brokerages don't, or they just don't have the tools. So,
are there any kind of thank you for that. And are there any kind of trends that you care to comment on in your particular either niche sector in Texas of oil and gas in terms of real estate or otherwise?
Trends as in
the property types, what's going on in the market? Because you have a unique vantage point. So you've been working in your market for a long time, and as you mentioned, there it's one of the biggest producing times in history. So I know there's a lot going on out there.
There is. There's an explosion of growth, especially in West Texas and South Texas. And there's, major pipelines going in that's going to allow the oil to travel down to the Gulf. And with that comes the infrastructure, land acquisitions. And, I know that there's some opposition to it, but there's also a lot of people that are for it. And we have to have that. So, the trend is moving upwards. They're predicting that we're going to have 5 times the amount of production that we currently have in Texas, which is just outstanding. It's phenomenal. So that has brought a lot of jobs to that area. Anyone saying, well, I can't find a job, well, go to West Texas and South Texas and you'll probably be hired in a minute, because can't find enough people to cover what they need out there as far as, any kind of job, whether it be trucking, waitressing, hotels. They've got to find people, and they pay very, very well out there. So, so that trend is great. But then you go back to the housing market here in Dallas-Fort Worth, and of course we're in a bubble here. So, it's not the same as every city out there. But as the U.S. trend, it has gone down. As far as the residential housing market, just a little bit. And I'm starting to see loans out there that kind of take us back to the 2008 era, where they were allowing the non-income stated loans. And, anytime you see that, to me, it's an indicator that the housing market is not doing too hot. And that's kind of where we're at. Not to scare the people out there. It's going to be an up and down, just like the stock market, right? So, I guess back 3 years ago, I put a house on the market. We'd have 5 contracts in a weekend. Now it takes 45 showings to sell the house. So we're still selling houses, just having to work a little harder.
I love it. So, Angela, if somebody is in Texas, where your brokerage is located, and they want more information on Day Realty, because maybe they are in that niche oil and gas sector, or they're also moving there and they need a house, right? Like you said, West Texas in Texas area, a lot of jobs and a lot of employment there. So guess what? People are going to need a place to live. What's the best way for them to reach out to Day Realty Group and connect with?
Yeah, so my website is freehomelist Dallas, freehome, Dallas.com. We can be reached at 214-489-0059. You can find me on LinkedIn under Angela.Yaun. And I'm on Facebook as well. I think I'm under Angie.Yaun. So ANGIE.YAUN. Yeah.
Fantastic. So Angela, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background and family legacy of entrepreneurs, and also the great work doing over at Day Realty Group to help your clients, both present and future. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. Share this with your friends, your family, your colleagues, all those great things we do to support our podcasters. I really do appreciate it. And Angela, thanks again for coming on the show.